Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back. This is my first video in my new closet office. It's still a work in progress. Need to get some prints on the wall. Gonna make it look much better, but I couldn't wait. I wanted to create a video today on my favorite photo places in Paris. Now, I just spent about 14 days in Paris and it wasn't a content trip at all. Like, I wasn't there to shoot, it wasn't for any kind of job. It was just me and my husband on an actual vacation, but I could not resist getting at least one photo a day in all the beautiful places that we visited. And I'm very happy that he obliged and helped me get some photos for Instagram and just for our own personal photo album so we could remember this amazing trip. I'm also going to be doing a separate Paris guide of everywhere we stayed, everywhere we ate, everywhere we drank, all those things. But I did a poll on my Instagram and you guys really wanted me to show you or tell you about the photo spots. So I can tell you about all the photos that I took and where I took them and why I liked them. And please forgive me if I butcher the pronunciation of any streets or any places. I am from South Africa. I would love to learn to speak French, but I definitely can't now. I can say like 3 words and one of those is croissant. So anyway, let's start with, of course, the Eiffel Tower. Now, I was actually really pleased at how many amazing viewpoints you can get of the Eiffel Tower. The most famous one, I think, where most people start off taking photos is overlooking the Trocadero, I hope I said that right, gardens. It has like a nice ledge where you can see the gardens and then you can see the Eiffel Tower in the distance. Now, when we first arrived, I was really shocked because it was just filled with tourists and you're actually not allowed to stand on the ledge. There were police physically pulling people off the ledge and I said, this is insane. I'm never gonna get my gram here. But we went just around the corner, down some stairs, and then we found the perfect viewpoint where there's the stairs and like a slanted wall. I see some people hop up on that wall, but I have terrible balance, so I probably would have toppled over the side. So it was way more quiet and it wasn't overrun with people or tourists, and it was such a pretty viewpoint. So I highly recommend doing that. And then the second viewpoint that I also really loved, that I just stumbled upon, and that's the best thing about Paris, is you can just walk around and suddenly you'll see like the separation of buildings down a street and you'll see the Arc de Triomphe or the Eiffel Tower or something, and it just like stops you dead in your tracks because it's just so beautiful. So we were walking to the Eiffel Tower to see it, to the actual base of it, and the main bridge that runs across from the Trocadero Gardens, there's a little stairway that goes down to the base of the Seine, and so I just wanted to go down there just to see. It was my first time seeing the Seine, so I just wanted to go be a little closer to it. And when we went down there, it was such a gorgeous view of the Eiffel Tower, so I just sat on the side, and that's also a really pretty place to take a photo. Now, the third viewpoint you may have seen pop up on Instagram multiple times. It's a street that has 2 really beautiful old architecture Paris buildings, and then there's some trees, and then you can see the Eiffel Tower kind of poking out. And now I found a few different addresses like where that was online, but we ended up walking around and around and around trying to find it, and then finally we found it. So at the end of the day, so we were a little tired, but I was like so determined to find this place. And we got there and there was a tour group of about maybe 60 people sitting along the street on the curb. Now, that was just the most frustrating thing because we had searched all day and I knew we probably weren't going to come back, so I was determined. So I was wearing a floral pleated skirt that had quite a lot of fabric. So my poor husband, I made him crouch down low to the ground, and then I like pulled out my skirt very dramatically to create like a big flow of fabric, which actually covered up all of the tourists. It was one of those one-shot wonders. It was either going to work or not work, but there's a hot tip. If there's too many tourists in the photo, try and make your outfit so big and so extra that it covers them. It can work. Another amazing thing about Paris is all the stunning, well-manicured gardens, and I loved Jardin du Luxembourg. It has a pretty palace, it has little roses, it has a beautiful pond where people are sailing little boats, and they have little chairs all around the pond where people are just having their lunch or reading the newspaper. It looks like you've just stepped into a painting. It's so stunning. To try and get all of these elements into the scene, I wanted to find a higher viewpoint, because if you go back from the thing you want to take a photo from and go to a higher viewpoint, then you can see more of it in the frame. So we just went up the side steps to one of the landings, sat on top of there, and that way got the whole architecture in the background and some of the trees and the whole scene of the park. Now, if you're in Paris, you are spending a lot of time at cafes and bistros, which is something I really admire about the French, how much they love to sit and eat and drink and just talk. My favorite neighborhood for cafes is Saint-Germain. It is just a really kind of old world feeling neighborhood across the Seine, and I think they have the most beautiful cafes there. I took this picture right there, and this is at a restaurant called Atlas. If you'd actually like to go to that exact place, their Aperol spritzes were divine. And the reason I chose that one was because the restaurant behind me in the photo is Maison Sauvage, and it has gorgeous pink flowers and like ivy all like almost dripping down off the restaurant, which is so stunning. But if you actually sit at the restaurant, then you can't get the whole scene in, so I chose a restaurant next to it so that you could get it in the background. I went there too. The wine was great. I had a little rosé. Honestly, that entire street has so many good options. Somewhere else I really highly recommend going is the Seine, but just taking a really long scenic stroll along it. There are so many beautiful little places to stop along the way. Like they have little markets on the higher ground that sell prints and old books, and then if you go down to the base, they actually have little restaurants and cafes and bars where you can grab a beer or something and sit along the edge of the river and just watch the boats go by. There's just so many beautiful places. Also, walking along the bridges there is so pretty. Now, the last garden I want to tell you about was one of my favorite places, so I don't want to butcher the name. It's Jardin du
Palais.
There you go. Now, I loved it so much because of the rose gardens inside. I don't think I've ever seen such beautiful roses in my whole life. They didn't look real. Like, I kept having to touch them to check that they were real. And it's such a nice quiet garden with a little water feature and little restaurants along the side. It's among all of the tourist attractions, which got really overwhelming for me. But once we walked into the garden, it was just a peaceful oasis. So that's a really nice place to go. And also grab a coffee from Cafe Kitsune. Some of the best coffee I've ever had, and it's just such a lovely place to sit on a bench and have a coffee and just people watch all day. So those are the few places that I really loved in Paris that we just happened to take photos. As I said, it wasn't a content trip, it was really just a vacation. And I highly recommend just walking the streets of Paris, and I'm sure you'll find even better locations that I just told you about. Of course, there's also more traditional tourist attractions like the Arc de Triomphe, which is also so beautiful to visit. I have listed all of these locations just in case you're interested in a blog post, which you can find the link just below. If you like this video, please subscribe. There are more coming soon, and have a great day, guys. See you soon.